Hey, what's going on YouTube? I hope you're having a fantastic day. I'm Scythe. I am a Evil Dead Twitch streamer. I demon main, and I've been streaming since the day this game came out. I've been very tied to this game. This game is what I've latched onto, and this game is what I've been playing. So needless to say, I was very honored and pleasantly surprised whenever Saber reached out to me to check out the new content of the Hail to the King update that's coming out. We got to preview it a little early, as you can see here on the screen with the new Halloween outfit there, along with a few other fantastic content creators that you should definitely check out. I'll show them here. Pow! Illaeis, Aggrofiend, myself, and Sohinki, along with Cal, got together to play some games and do some recordings, which you will see on the Evil Dead's YouTube channel, as well as all of these guys who you should go check out. I'll put links below. And a big shout out to PaintedKing for this amazing artwork here, and I'll probably link them as well. But man, how cool was it to get together and play some games with the new stuff? I am a demon main, as I mentioned a moment ago. I don't really play a lot of Survivor, so my gameplay not the best. But when I have played a lot of this game, and what I can do is show you what the Blacksmith is all about, and how I think that they're going to play, and how they're going to affect the meta, and what they're going to bring to the game in general, as far as fun and as far as what. Like I said, some meta choices. So let's check that out, shall we? So first of all, we're going to go to our collection. We're going to slide over. It's the first time we're having to deal with little sliders here. And then we're going to click on the Blacksmith, and boom! As you can see, the Blacksmith is me. I am the Blacksmith. No, I'm kidding. But actually, we'll let the Blacksmith introduce themselves.
Deep in me soul, I always knew I was meant for something grand. My father did all he could to make me feel small, the bloody drunk. But I am not small. With me hammer and tongs, no blacksmith in the kingdoms can match me handcraft. The hero from the sky was sent to save us from the terror of the Deadites. And I was born to arm that hero.
So, as always, Saber has done a fantastic job with the model, with the voice lines. They even added a little bit of lore there to him. Really cool. But one thing that I am very thrilled about is that some people may be surprised that he was a support. They're like, this big burly guy, as they thought, oh man, it's definitely going to be another warrior. Some people thought, oh, maybe a leader. Support, probably not necessarily the first thing they jump to, but it makes sense. A blacksmith is someone who creates things to help other people out. They're not the one that's out there doing the actual fighting. So, for me, it makes a lot of sense here. His Q, his active ability, is very interesting. It's called Avenging Anvil, and it makes it to where he creates an item. He spawns an item in on the map for his allies to use. But I'll show you a little bit more detail than that in a minute in a custom game. But his passives here is what I really want to talk about. And if you pause the game and look at the values here, understand that I got an early access build, so these values are subject to change, okay? But the concepts of them will still be the same. So I really just want to talk about those. So as he at level 1, so he's locked into this really early on. He's got Weapon Master Melee, and this is one of the things that really changes the way you look at him as a support. And it's melee weapons have a faster attack speed and deal increased health, balance bar, and dismemberment damage. In return, the Blacksmith is unable to use ranged weapons. Now, if you've been playing this game for a while, you know that weapon mastery is not a new thing. That's several survivors in the game have some sort of weapon mastery where they specify a very specific kind of weapon. Crossbows, mallets, chainsaws, double-barreled shotguns, things like that, swords, but not all melee weapons. And so obviously that's pretty strong, but the trade-off is that he can't use ranged weapons. Now, you might think to yourself, oh my gosh, this is incredible. Keep in mind that he's still support. And if you don't know, all supports in the game take a penalty to melee and ranged damage that they deal. And we don't know just how much he is cranking that back up. One thing, though, is that his increased attack speed is, with every weapon that he picks up, is pretty good. That's a pretty big deal. And it helps him get in there and chunk away at balance bar damage quite a bit with melee weapons. So I think that that's going to be a pretty common thing for him. Next up, he has, once he gets to level 10, he gets Tough as Nails, where he gets increased maximum health, 400. That's a pretty beefy amount. It makes him the tankiest support in the game. And all you support mains out there, you know how it is. You guys have learned to be survivable by necessity, because demons, including myself, focus you down. We are like, oh, we don't want the healer to be doing the healing thing, so let's go kill them. So you've gotten really good at dodging. You put together builds that help you be survivable, balance barring. There's all kinds of stuff. You guys know what's up. And so I'm sure many of you are like, yes, someone who's even more tanky? Go on. However, we've talked a lot here about his support abilities and the way his stats have changed into more of a melee monster. How's that going to trade off for things? Not having a gun's a big deal for support. Most supports usually pick up some sort of ranged weapon, usually something rapid fire, like a pistol or a nail gun, sometimes even a repeater rifle if they're really good at aiming. That way, whenever a teammate of theirs becomes possessed, they can quickly just rapidly stagger them, so the demon doesn't have a chance to do anything with the possessed person. Also, some supports may be going, well, wait a minute here. How does he offer any extra healing? Cheryl gives extra healing through her Shemps and her Q. Sash gives healing. Even Pablo generates some sort of value by creating amulets, and we're going to talk about that with his last ability, Rough and Ready. When using the amulet, the Blacksmith and nearby survivors have their damage increased for a limited time. If you're lucky, the amulet might not break, so you can keep using it. At the time that I got to play around with this, it was 50% chance, and I don't know if that's going to be what it is on release, but it was still pretty cool. So a coin flip of every time you use an amulet that it has a chance to not break. And you'll get a notification and a small debuff because it gives you a cooldown whenever that happens. So now it makes it to where any amulets that you have, the Blacksmith definitely wants to get a hold of those. Give your amulets to the Blacksmith, because he has a chance to just make those happen more often, and whenever he uses them in clutch situations, like on objectives or against the boss or whatever else, he's giving your team a damage boost, which is pretty cool, in my opinion. So overall, he is going to slot very well into a lot of melee comps. But even then, like pairing up with an Annie to do extra balance bar, I think that he's got a lot of potential here. And he's interesting to me because he's not your typical sport. He plays differently. He's like a hybrid. He's like the first hybrid class. It's like a support warrior hybrid, but most people kind of have their lane that they fall into, and he kind of like blurs the lines a little bit, and I'm really excited about that. I hope that in the future we have more things that kind of blur what the classes really mean. So that'll be pretty stinking cool. But we want to talk more about the Avenging Anvil, and I want to show you exactly what that does, because it talks about metal scraps. You're like, what's that all about? Let's show you, okay? Okay, guys. We're in a game. We're just thinking it's a solo game against the AI, because I just want to show you kind of what
hearing this, the future is in your hands. Follow these
so
instructions
as you can
to the
see,
letter.
just above my queue, there is a colored bar there. It says 5 out of 20, and it's got a few different colors.
There are several pieces of a map hidden nearby.
It's really hard to see,
Gather them
but
to
there's
ascertain
actually
the location of the lost pages of the Necronomicon
white,
and Kandarian
blue,
dagger.
and a tiny sliver of
A curious
purple. That means that
libation.
immediately off the bat, you
Deadens
can
me
just
tongue.
use your Q, which I'm going to do here. Oh. Oh, no. Okay. So each time he swing... Really? Really?
I'll cut out your tongue and feed it to the hens.
And feed it to the hens. Oh, that's a great voice line. Okay, so as you can see, each time he swings, he upgrades it an additional time. Now I'm down to 0, and if I get if I get another metal scrap, which we can find on the ground around buildings or off of enemies, if we kill enemies, they drop metal. They can drop metal scraps as well. I can just crank out weapons really quick early on. I can be like, bam, bam, bam on cooldown to make sure everybody's armed up, including ranged weapons. Even though he can't wield those himself, he can still arm up the party. Well, that's not really, you know, the most efficient use of him because, you know, it's not that hard to find at least white weapons in this game. But it's still an option just in case you have like weird spawn points or whatever else, and you have a chance of just getting early blues like I did, because there's still a chance of it even at very low scraps. And we talked about how he doesn't have the ability to use a ranged weapon, so instead in that ranged weapon slot he has metal scraps that increases the maximum amount of metal scraps you can have, but you have to spend points in other categories before you can upgrade this. So I'm going to grab a couple in melee and then up my metal scraps. Now, as you might gather from that bar, the more metal scraps he has, the higher chance he has of making a better rarity of melee weapon. And in fact, as it gets higher on, he just guarantees that he won't get a white. It'll be at least a blue and has a higher chance of getting a purple, and so on and so forth. And if you put all of your pink F into metal scraps and get all the way up to 50, then I didn't even know the thing was here. I wasn't even paying attention. And get all the way up to 50, he will get a guaranteed legendary weapon, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And it's kind of a neat effect that he has that bar at the bottom, and also that whenever he pulls out the anvil and starts swinging it, you kind of know how much it's kind of like, every time he goes to swing again, it ups the rarity.
Has found the first
so
hidden
if he's
piece
just
of
one,
the map. Keep moving and
little,
find another.
You know, a common thing. Another one, another swing blue, another swing purple, and you'll see kind of like those effects come off of there. And then actually on a legendary, if you get all the way up to there, a lightning bolt will come down and strike your anvil. It looks really, really cool. So I thought that was very neat. However, one thing to know about that is that it is interruptible. If you pull that blacksmith's anvil out during a fight or whatever, not that you should, the demon or an enemy can hit you and interrupt that, especially if you're going for a higher rarity item and you're swinging that hammer multiple times. The demon can be like, no, stop that. And obviously you're not dodging during that time, so probably not a good idea to do that while, you know, stuff's going down. Also, I wanted to show you guys the ability to use the amulet here and maybe not consume it.
All right, whatever you are.
So there
Let's
it
go.
was consumed. Let's try it again. Oh, it was consumed again. Pablo, hey, give me cake. Can you hook me up with some? No? No. Okay. So I missed my coin flips a couple times. So if I get any more, we can show that off. That he has a chance to not use them. And every time that happens, he gets a little debuff below his... in the status area. Oh, the new weapon staff. In this little status area there that says, hey, I can't... I didn't use a...
Single shot? Must be Ash's gun.
He'll get an alert that says he didn't use his amulets, and he'll get a status that says you can't have that happen again for a little while, because that's very powerful. Getting free getting free amulets is very, very valuable.
I'll nail ye to the ground.
And so you can only do that so often. Just let them beat on that while
It's like no water I know.
Come on, amulets. We can show off some of the finishers here for the staff as well.
Die, filthy bag of bones! Your demon days are through.
Just beating people down with a stick.
Swine.
Like I'm a wise old wizard.
Gargle with hellfire, evil.
Not the best
brute.
camera angle there. Still works. And nobody else can see these. Some things about the metal scraps. The metal scraps can drop off of enemies. The metal scraps spawn all over the place in indoor areas. Dead End in particular, I've noticed in the games I was playing with the other content creators. Dead End had a lot of scraps, making it even more of a juicy, loot pinata target for everybody. Nobody else can see them or interact with them. Also, another thing is they don't drop when you die. You know how normally whenever you die you lose all the items that you were carrying, but metal scraps you do not. So we'll just use my cue again here to show it one more time before we end the video. Bam. Oh, wah, wah. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes it's better just to save up your metal scraps. Unfortunate. Oh, let's use a amulet here. Come on, 50-50. Oh, yay, there it is. Your amulet didn't break after use, and there you can see the debuff down below my fear bar. So now that we've talked a little bit about what the Blacksmith does, how is that going to affect the game? What's that going to bring to the game? Well, I think it's going to bring a lot. I think it's going to bring a lot of variety to support players and the way that they play the game, because it's just a different way to play support. It forces them not to, whoever chooses to play the Blacksmith, it forces them not to just stand back and shoot and heal and play it safe. They're going to get in there and have more of an action-packed melee experience. But it also shakes up builds a little bit. It gives people creative juices to think with here as far as what kind of builds. Is it the obvious route, just go lean heavy into the melee, Arthur, Annie, and then other warriors, and you just get in there? But also maybe just doing multiple support builds where you have someone who's more of a dedicated healer, and the Blacksmith here is an off healer who is kind of like backup damage, but also backup healing, while you have two other people who are really dedicated to the damage and someone who's dedicated to the healing, and the Blacksmith kind of helps augment both of those things. I think those are all very viable, and I think that it's going to be a lot of fun for a lot of people to play around with, not just support players, but just people just messing with builds and team comps in general. I think it'll be really, really interesting. I love that it's a kind of a hybrid character. It's not fully a support and not fully a warrior. So there's a lot of pros that they bring along. There are some cons. Not having the weapon is the obvious one, or not having the ranged weapon is the obvious one. But one that we haven't talked about with is that he has no fear management. Several of the other supports have ways to help reduce or manage your team's fear, and he has zero interaction with anybody's fear bars. So he's kind of like, hey, stick to the light, do your own thing. I'm here to give you weapons to buff your damage, give shield bars and healing like normal, but also get in there and beat people down. That's where his lane is. And so this trade-off for that isn't the most obvious one, is that he doesn't have anything to deal with the fear bar. But overall, though, I think that he's an interesting ad, and I think there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be playing around with him, and I don't think that he is weak by any means. So there is that. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you want to see more of my content, come check me out on Twitch. I stream pretty regularly at twitch.tv at XCYTHEX That's my username. It's just Scythe. The X's are silent. But come check me out. I'm a demon main. I play all the demons, but I'm most well known for what you might see there is Necromancer. That's my boy. Him, the little duder. But the huge shout out to all the rest of these content creators for having me along, and huge shout out to PaintedKing for this amazing artwork that you see before you. I hope to see you guys on Twitch, and you know, let me know in the comments what you think of the Blacksmith, and whether or not you think that he's going to be a welcome addition to the Evil Dead roster, which I think he will be. Anyways, see you next time. Bye.